No souvenirs, Mr. Scott.
This looks interesting.
I realize the temptation is there, but I don't think the museum wants you rewiring exhibits, Mr. Scott. I suppose this is interesting, but tampering with equipment will set off alarms. We hardly want trouble on our shore leave.
I wonder if this old Vulcan computer would be embarrassing to Mr. Spock.
No, laddie. That would not be logical.
No playing with the exhibits, Mr. Chekhov. I've never seen one of these up close before.
A beauty, isn't it, Captain?
I'll take your word for it, Mr. Scott. Maybe we should install one of these in the Enterprise. What do you think, Mr. Scott?
I think not, Captain.
Just a thought, Mr. Scott. Interesting piece of Klingon machinery.
I don't think McCoy would like this transporter, Captain. Even I would not want to use this one.
You not use a piece of equipment? Why not, Mr. Scott?
This little beastie put out a wee bit of energy discharge during transport. You've heard of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Of course, Mr. Scott.
Well, this is the Mulligan certainty field, guaranteed to do bad things to you even Dr. McCoy cannot fix. You can block the radiation, but she's not something I'd want to play with unless I absolutely had to. You'd have to repair the wires anyway. And the power unit's been pulled out too. Actually, Captain, I probably should take your advice and not touch it without the Curator's permission. Although the temptation may ruin me before the day is over.
I expect you'll manage to cope, Scotty.
This is very good workmanship, Captain. Probably not very comfortable to wear, but it got the job done. You think Uhura would like it if we swapped this one for hers?
Scotty, I never took you for having a death wish.
Actually, Captain, this one's not in bad shape. They took the transmitting gear and she's got no power, but other than that, she's in fine condition. They run a ship-shaped museum here.
This transporter is really old. I've never seen one before. I bet Mr. Scott would know much more about it.
Watch it, laddie.
I think there is a tag on this suit. Made in... Oh, Russia.
I don't think such a tag exists, Mr. Chekhov. It's not polite to perpetuate falsehoods in front of senior officers.
Indeed, Mr. Chekhov, if I weren't in such a good mood, I'd put you on report. The next thing you'll be saying is that warp drive was invented in Russia.
Didn't Cochrane spend several years in Moscow when it was being developed?
Nice try, laddie.
It's an antique, Captain. Now, if we had one of those prototype Vulcan SAPEC 3000 engineering controls...
Youth, Captain. They're all the same. No respect for history. The Academy's full of them.
A great pity, Mr. Scott. Let's not push the boundaries of our little tour too much.
It may not look much like it, Captain, but that escape pod is a fine piece of work.
There's something about that robot I find vaguely disturbing.
I'm sure we're in no danger from that old piece of junk, Captain. That docking ring reminds me of something, Captain.
Is this a long story, Mr. Chekhov?
Yes, Captain.
Don't forget, we may get called back to the Curator's office soon. Maybe this can wait until after the ceremonies.
Yes, Captain.
Why don't we ask the Curator next time we see him if you can adjust a few of the exhibits, Mr. Scott?
That'd be great, Captain.
I'm sure the Curator will express the same sentiment.
This is a rather ridiculous contraption, Captain.
Maybe you should fix it up to move, Scotty. It would make a more interesting exhibit, but we should ask the Curator first.
Somebody put a lot of time into building this beauty.
And I suspect the museum would be unhappy if you rebuilt it now. I'm sure it's a great temptation, Mr. Chekhov, but I think the museum objects to visitors tampering with their exhibits.
But we're not visitors, we're guests.
No, Mr. Chekhov, you can't take it home with you.
Too bad, Captain. I thought I could store it just inside Mr. Sulu's doorway.
Tampering with things will probably upset the museum and Starfleet.
I wasn't going to tamper, Captain. I was going to just examine in detail.
This brings back some memories. I think this was the type of docking ring I saw the first time I was allowed to bring a ship in.
That must have been a very long time ago, Captain.
Not that long, Mr. Chekhov, thank you. I never did like Habus Robotics. Rather seductive piece of equipment, don't you think?
Aye, Captain, but it's a smuggler's craft.
There are times, Mr. Scott, there are times. My great-grandfather hadn't been born yet when this system was operational.
The sensor package that operated this diagram was huge, Captain. It took up a third of the space in the craft.
Nice diagram.
I would love to see the sensors that originally fed data to this diagram, Captain. This place is a marvel, Captain. I could spend weeks in here.
I'm sure you could, Scotty. Was that the curator? I thought I heard him call.
No, Captain. We've got plenty of time to view the exhibits.
I see.
Do you think we should start back, Captain?
Enjoy yourself, laddie. The curator will call us when he's ready.
The curator may call at any time. I'd hate to have him find one of us stuck inside an exhibit.
Oh, a Dunkelberger. I'm not a fan of automated engineering, but these were rather interesting contraptions. They were not a bad machine, but sort of an evolutionary dead end.
I don't think we've seen the last of compact mobile automation, Mr. Scott.
I cannot agree, Mr. Chekhov. Automated systems technology makes these robots little better than toys.
But perhaps one day...
There are definitely advantages to having an informed and opinionated crew, but this conversation is not showing it.
Captain, do I look like a Lantoid to you? Only Lantoids can work this programmable rock cart. Even Spock would have trouble with this.
I remember seeing one of these in a museum once.
We are in a museum, lad.
I meant another museum, Mr. Scott. I always thought that robotics never reached its full potential, Captain.
The lad's gone daft, Captain. These toys would only get in the way of a real engineer.
Ah, a Lantoid computer. I remember listening to some of their algorithms at the Academy. They were rather beautiful.
This looks more like something that would interest me, Captain.
I find this thing strangely compelling. Remind me to get the curator's permission to take a closer look.
Better you than me, Captain. A wee bit alien for my taste.
That probe looks like it's seen better days.
I bet I could make that wee probe function given a little time, Captain.
I suspect the Soransi wants it just the way it is. But if the opportunity comes up, we can ask if they want you to repair it.
This diplomatic stuff is quite dull, Captain. Is it always like this?
Unfortunately, Mr. Chekhov, yes.
I think I'll stick to starships, Captain.
You do that, Ensign.
I wonder what Lockean engineering is like.
I'm sorry, sir. No one is allowed through the ropes until the ceremony.
Of course, binary star systems comprise a large...
Lad, as much as I like and appreciate Mr. Spock, I do not think the Enterprise needs someone else to start talking about meaningless information.
I really should have taken that course in architectural appreciation at the Academy.
Why didn't you, lad?
Well, there was a girl that I was interested in, and she was taking the Rigelian history class that ran at the same time.
no one means you, sir.
Binary system. Seen one model of a temple, seen them all. Now, the real thing would be worth looking at.
No one means you, sir.
I'm sorry, this door is for museum personnel only. Have a nice day.
Why, certainly, Captain.
On second thought, Scotty, you better leave that alone.
Thank you, but I'm not thirsty.
Scotty, we've got work to do.
Seemed like a crime to waste it, Captain. Captain, I don't see how a pigeon is going to help us.
Don't we have more important things to do than bird watching, Captain?
There's something disturbing about a bird in a cage.
We learned as children playing chess, it's never a good idea to randomly move your knight about. Not difficult to fix, Captain. It's safe now. I've gone over the system, Captain, and it's a mess. All the security modules are cut off from each other. When the Curator touched the panel, it set off triggers all over the museum. Somebody had a lot of access to things.
And we don't know who they are, what they want, or how long we have to stop them.
Captain, look at this. A little button for the Curator to open the door.
Not much of a trap, really. Fixed it up with a wee change of wiring. I've checked the system, Captain. Whoever sabotaged it did a fine job. All of the modules of the security system were cut off from each other when the Curator tried to trigger the defenses. And I do not think I can repair from here.
I wish we had more information. We don't know who they are, what they want, or how long we have to stop them.
Captain, they've got a wee button under here to let the Curator open the door without getting up.
Mr. Chekhov, see if you can wedge that knight under the door.
Yes, Captain.
There, that should hold the door open.
We might be able to use these, Captain. They store power well and give it up fast. I think this is nothing but a Hulk now, Captain. Captain, I was able to recover some heat-resistant wiring and a cable. Not much I can do with it, Captain. It's not connected to anything.
This is not exactly my area of expertise. Gentlemen, I'll leave this to you. I think I'll leave this machine to the experts.
I was able to pull some of the magnetic clamps off. Maybe we will find a use for them. I can't imagine what this machine could be good for. We should get some of these for the Enterprise, Captain. It's a good vehicle.
I'll grant you it's a good little craft, Chekhov, but we'll never need escape vehicles in the Enterprise.
I think either one of you could do a fine job manipulating this thing.
I'm not sure if I understand you, Captain.
Why, Mr. Scott, you're the engineer. You figure it out. This is not exactly my area of expertise. I'm just a simple captain, not an engineer. I'll let one of you handle this.
Its head is as empty as the vacuum in space, but I did get some good wires.
The only use left I can think of, Captain, would be to roll it in front of us as a target for the terrorists.
Not a bad idea, Scotty.
Except for the fact that there are no rollers, Captain, and the beastie weighs a ton.
You would have to know voodoo to get this to work now, Captain.
I don't know how this works, but looking at it reminds me of the time when I was a boy working on my first electronics project. I built one of those old crystal radios. Maybe this computer somehow projects its answers into your mind.
It may be just looking at the crystals made you remember that, Captain.
It's possible. Are you now practicing psychology, Mr. Scott?
Oh, no, Captain. I'm just a simple country engineer.
Captain, I've never seen anything like this. I have no idea how this works. It's pretty, though.
We'd be pressing our luck, letting it poke around in there, Captain.
They took away the fusion reactor, but not the backup fuel cell for the instrument package. We could make it work if we add catalyst and electrolyte.
Well, let's see how well this works. Kirk to Enterprise. Kirk to Enterprise. Enterprise, come in.
Who is this?
This is Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise.
Well, Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise, why don't you take your Enterprise and go away? We don't want any Federation interference. I'm a member of the Lockian family, Onakin.
Whoever you are, call for help. There are terrorists in the museum.
Yes, we already know. There's nothing to worry about. Now get off this restricted frequency so we can get on with dealing with the terrorists.
A nice try. Obviously, I'm talking to one of the people holding the hostages. Who are you?
My name is Lucas. I'm a member of the Lockian family, Onakin.
I've never heard of the Onakan family.
It's no surprise you haven't heard of us, even though we're one of the largest and oldest families on Lockian. Just shows how much the Federation believes the lies the Saransi pass along.
The Saransi are your enemies?
Our bitterest enemies for centuries. And you're backing go. The entire race owes its existence to the Quelke.
I knew it had great significance. I just didn't know there was anyone else involved.
The Saransi presently have control of the communication facilities. They've been restricting access to make their position seem more powerful.
So you feel you have a legitimate claim on the Kelki?
We have as much claim to that probe as anyone.
It sounds like you have a legitimate grievance.
Don't patronize me. You'd say anything just to stop us. Since you'd really rather talk to the Saransi, why not start practicing what you're going to tell them when they find that Quelke has been taken?
Hello? Hello? He seems to have cut communications. We need to recharge the capacitor. Does the Saransi also have a right to the Kelki?
No, it's ours.
This is your last warning. Release the hostages now, or suffer the consequences.
I'm quaking. So much so I can hardly hold the communicator anymore.
Hello? Hello? Obviously, I'll have to check with my superiors on this, but I'm certain something can be worked out.
Don't patronize me.
And so do we. Power is something we have far more of than you. You would be wise to give up now and end this foolishness.
I'm quaking. So much so I can hardly hold the communicator anymore.
Then why is the museum handing the Kelki over to the Saransi?
And we can't let you stop us. This is something that has to be done.
Then this situation should be looked into more closely by the Federation. We're here with the best intentions. You want peace? We want peace.
Is that an offer?
That's a guarantee. Of course the Federation backs the Saransi. You don't see them taking hostages and setting traps for museum curators, do you?
You don't see much of anything, nor hear it.
Hello? Why don't you and I discuss this?
Why should I discuss this with you? The Federation won't help us.
That's good to hear. Kirk out. You should give up immediately. You have no chance. I'm holding a Corbomite device.
I'm holding a hostage.
Who am I talking to? If you haven't killed anyone so far, there must be a reason. So any threats against hostages are nothing more than a bluff.
You are correct and very clever. You should have no problem dealing with this then.
Hello? Hello?
Security lockdown is in effect. Please enter access code.
There they are! Shoot them!
Load a previously saved game.
We made a bit of a mess here, didn't we?
The gas canister is a bit beat up from the fall, but still functional.
The Curator mentioned these were in each room.
We could open the door and spray it on the terrorists.
If it's fast enough to stop them from using their phasers, it'll stop us too.
And they'd get a warning if the door started to open. Time enough to put the hostages in jeopardy.
I don't think McCoy would like this transporter, Captain. Even I would not want to use this one.
You not use a piece of equipment? Why not, Mr. Scott?
This little beastie put out a wee bit of energy discharge during transport. You've heard of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Of course, Mr. Scott.
Well, this is the Mulligan certainty field, guaranteed to do bad things to you even Dr. McCoy cannot fix. You can block the radiation, but she's not something I'd want to play with unless I absolutely had to. You'd have to repair the wires anyway. And the power unit's been pulled out too. It wasn't easy, but the wiring's fixed, Captain.
It's never easy, is it, Mr. Scott?
Aye, Captain. It's in there, Captain. This should work, I hope.
It's inside. We should wait until it's time to transport before we activate the valve.
Good idea, Ensign.
We're about as ready as we can get, Captain. I'll have the robot open the gas valve and I'll transport on your signal. Shall we give it a go?
Energize, Mr. Scott.
Security lockdown is in effect. Please enter access code.
The gas worked.
Mr. Chekhov, have Dr. McCoy beam down to make sure the Curator and guards are all right. Mr. Scott, lower the museum's shields and have a security team beamed aboard. Captain's log supplemental. With the terrorist unconscious, it was an easy matter to turn off the security override. The terrorists turned out to be from another family from Lockheed, the Onakan, a family with a long history of feuding with the Saransi, who also claimed the probe. The probe was the very same probe that discovered Lockean and had enormous symbolic importance to the families on the planet. Curator Brezhnev was treated by Dr. McCoy and is in good health. Commendations are in order for Scott and Chekhov for meritorious service. Lieutenant Uhura, send a message to Admiral Richards. Tell him he owes me more than he thinks he does.
Aye, sir. I have a feeling he's not going to be surprised.
I'm afraid I'm going to remember this mission with a great deal of sadness, Captain.
Why is that, Mr. Scott?
It was such a fine cognac, Captain. It was just waiting for us, and now it's gone forever. Such a waste. You always remember the one that got away.
Sure, Scott.
Captain, message incoming from Starfleet.
I see they got our report. On screen.
I reviewed your report from your recent assignment, Captain, and have a few comments. Well done, Kirk. Keep up the good work. I must say, however, your performance is not what we've come to expect from James T. Kirk. I guess we all have our off days, Captain. Kane out.